Podcasting from Industry City, Brooklyn, New York. This is the Brooklyn Baritone Podcast. Hey everyone, thank you again for joining me. If this is your first time, I much appreciate the checking me out. And if this is not your first time, thank you for the continued support. Well, I'm out in the street. It's early, but there are other people out here early, especially this old rickety van that's passing me by. Let me stop getting on the man. That's probably his only means to make money this morning. But anyways, all right, getting into it right now. To talk about some topics that are affecting everyone right now, because right now everyone seems to be polarized over the political climate, economic climate, racial climate, and even our well-being and health climate. Everything is in the mix right now. But I'm going to start off with saying you need to always focus on the truth. The truth should be our bottom line up front. More noise. The truth should always be our bottom line up front. Whatever you do, whatever you say, your goals in life, it should always include the truth. Now, my past podcast, Got Milk or Nah, I said to follow the money. In other podcasts as well, when I talked about the perils of racism, and we're still dealing with it in slavery, I talked about look at the real science. Science was used to basically prove, quote unquote, prove, and I'm going to use the word science very loosely, that people of color were just genetically inferior to Caucasian people. And hopefully we all know that that's not the truth right now. But the problem is these are just examples of things that have steered people to us to being very divided and divisive right now. The whole problem is deception and distractions. That's basically what everything is. And when someone has to employ deception and distractions, it means there's an ulterior motive, usually for control, usually for pride, but it's nothing ever good. Now, going into looking for the truth as our bottom line up front, always follow the money. But I'm going to talk about science for a hot second, because science, people don't realize, has been an effective tool for an agenda and control. Case in point, when I said I talked about racism when black people were scientifically proven to be genetically inferior for centuries. It basically went unchallenged, which is why so much people right now have it in their heart to feel that someone that looks like me, sounds like me, is inferior or prone to violence or prone to just having kids all over the place and graffitiing up the city all over the place. Well, there's another part of science too that has been used for an agenda. For people who do know Nikola Tesla, he had a feud with Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is basically America's sweetheart as far as being an inventor and a scientist. Well, they had like a war basically going on between them, and Nikola Tesla, he was basically promoting and siding with alternating current. Thomas Edison was promoting direct current. And Thomas Edison went so far to prove his point because he couldn't look bad, because he's basically part of the Good Old Boys Network. He hooked up alternating current, supposedly, to elephants in front of live crowds and killed them to prove how dangerous alternating current is. If you know anything about electricity and physics, or common sense, current is current. Current can severely harm you or kill you. Don't matter if it's alternating or direct. This is how far many people will go to appear right. People will cause harm. People will do things that are straight unethical. People will do things that are questionable just to prove that they are right, just so they could get the public to see them as a winner, because we all like winners, right? We love winners. Oh, nobody wants to be a loser. And Nikola Tesla has been, vilified, demonized, and ostracized. And he was actually the more ethical one out the two, because he was actually looking to find ways to provide free energy, free data transfer for everybody. But again, people like JP Morgan did not fund him because they wanted to make money off of us, which they currently are, because we have so much energy options and communication options, but we got to pay for it. If Tesla had his way, all this would be free right now, right? Going forward. Now, this is another part which made a lot of people pivot away from the real truth of things. I remember when I was in school, young lad, we used to see a lot of things in science textbooks, a lot of things that actually supported evolutionary theories. One thing I remember is the embryonic table where we saw how similar the embryos of every species, humans, fish, apes, pigs, whatever it is, looked the same because they had gills, they didn't have arms and all that stuff. Turns out this professor in the 1800s, late 1800s, Art Haeckel, I believe his name is, he was an avid follower of Charles Darwin. He actually went to the extremes of changing drastically how all the species embryos look, simply because he wanted the theory of evolution to be right. Again, he pulled all the stops to win at all costs. Now, the crazy part is that this thing has been debunked by his fellow professors in the late 1800s and even in the early 1900s. It's been debunked as false and fraud. But I've been learning this stuff when I was a kid. So that means at least 100 years, more than 100 years have passed since this thing has been exposed. And people are still teaching this stuff to children. There's so much people that are still learning these things. It's been exposed as lies, but why am I still learning about it? And why are so much other things about history suppressed? Why are so much things about our origins suppressed? You always have to follow the agenda and the money. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You know, my thing is that I started to look for the truth. People say they look for the truth, but they don't really want the truth. When a lot of people, you have to be honest with yourself. When people look for the truth, they are basically looking for points so they can have an argument. I had to get out of my comfort zone because at one point I was very agnostic. I very much am a follower of Elohim, Yeshua HaMashiach, and the Ruach HaKodesh. For those who don't know, simple terms, God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. And when you pursue Elohim properly, it would lead you to the truth. And likewise, in reverse, when you seek out the truth, it is going to lead you to Elohim, regardless of whether you're ready for it or not. And even when I started to have these things uncovered, when I started to get closer to understanding who Elohim is and who we are, I had to challenge myself too. There are some things that came up in my studies and my path over the years where I'm like, is this the right way? Is there such a thing as Elohim? And you know what? Because I challenged myself and went further, because I had kind of from fear, I'm like, if this is not true, then, I'm going to go crazy. So, what's the real truth out here? Because I can't trust man and his systems, because I just demonstrated before, man lies. Elohim does not. You can't be afraid of the truth. You have to come out your comfort zone. Now, I get it why so much people would not want to follow Elohim, because of usually, A, they're too prideful to accept a creator that designed everything. Or B, something traumatic happened in their life, or something happened in their life that they did not want to happen, or they wanted something to happen and it did not happen. And you could say C as well, you had the wrong kind of influences and exposures around you. And the examples that I talked about with people lying, scientific community lying, people love to hold on to science as that is the gospel for everything. I was proven this in 3 examples. You have to go and examine and research for your own self, for your own good, for everybody around you. That everything that is always put in our faces is there for a reason. Somebody is manufacturing something so that we can be exposed to this and be distracted from who we really are, from our true origins, from what's really going on behind the scenes with people who control all the resources and the money and even the politics. I will come out here and say positive things, but then when it comes down to it, you can't bottle up the truth. And many of us know that we are hiding the truth or running from it for whatever reason, whether it be for pride or fear. The truth is not fearful. When you have the truth, it does not manufacture fear. Deception and distraction, those are the things that manufacture fear for control. When you have someone who is fearful, you can easily control them. When you have the truth, you cannot steer them wrong, and they have the proper standards to live properly and have everyone else around them live properly. Anyways, that's what I wanted to do. I want to spark some thought. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking out this far. If you didn't click off, you can always check my content out on my website at www.brooklynbaritone.com. You could also check my YouTube channel and subscribe to Brooklyn Baritone. You can check me out under Corey Ashley at LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram and I am on Facebook. You can also catch my podcast on the Google Play Store and the Apple iTunes Play Store. I thank you very much for listening. Thank you for lending me your ear and your time and attention. I pray unto you. I pray that you continue to seek out your truth and grow better. I want to grow. I want to grow with you. I want you to grow with me. Be blessed, everyone. Walk with you. We'll hear from me next week.